Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Matt Lateplo, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for today's battery and precious metals presentations. Our next live presentation comes from Collective Mining Limited. Before I introduce our speaker, a few points to note. Please submit your questions in the question box to the left of the slides. If you are interested in scheduling a meeting with Collective Mining, please click on the Meetings tab found on the left navigation bar. You will be able to view the company's availability and submit a meeting request. On a final note, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Ari Sussman, Executive Chairman of the Board of Collective Mining Limited, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol CNLMF and on the TSXV under the symbol CNL. Welcome, Ari.
Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you for that introduction. So today we're going to walk you through Collective Mining, and look, let me start by saying we're on to a very exciting new discovery in Colombia. I'm really looking forward to telling you all about it, but to start, I want to just walk you through some of the housekeeping items. First, usual disclaimer, everyone's aware of this. We will be making forward-looking statements in this presentation, so be cautious. Anything forward-looking should not be relied upon as fact, only as speculative. Okay, so if you don't know Collective Mining or our background, we are the people that built a company which is named Continental Gold, which was responsible for discovering, growing, and ultimately permitting and constructing what is now the largest gold mine in Colombia, which is called Buritica. The company was sold in 2020 to one of the largest mining companies in the world from China, named Zijin Mining, for roughly $2 billion in enterprise value. That means to $1.4 billion in equity plus plus $600 million in assumed debt. We pride ourselves on being the most experienced operators in the country with the strongest geological team. And so Collective Mining was born shortly after the sale of Continental Gold in 2020. And we set out on a mandate to go and make the next large-scale discovery in Colombia and to focus on porphyry systems. Before I go into the project itself, let me show you just some housekeeping items. So you'll note the common shares outstanding is just shy of 53 million. The cash, that was as of September the 30th, was just under $5 million US dollars. And if you look at the two asterisks below on the slide, you will note that we closed a financing of Canadian $10.7 million at the end of October. So long story short, we are funded to carry out our phase 2 drill program in the calendar 2023 year, which is now underway. And we are going to look at that in a minute. Before we go into the excitement, board of directors, I'm not going to go through all these names, but this is an experienced group, two of which worked with us, Ken Thomas and Paul Murphy at Continental Gold previously. Maria Constanza is our representative on the board of directors from Colombia, who lives in Colombia and is quite connected in that space, especially related to mining and government. And Ashwath Mehra, who you see on the bottom, is a successful business entrepreneur that's had some big wins in mining, including being the founder of GT Gold, which was sold to Newmont less than 2 years ago for $311 million. The management team, led by me as executive chairman, I won't go through all these names, but look, if you can read these on your own and go to our website, but suffice to say, this is really the Continental Gold Part 2 team that made up Collective Mining. And we're in the exploration phase, as I mentioned, and we have a very strong technical team in that regard. And that is what led us to a significant discovery that I'm about to show you. The last couple things I want to show you before we go into it are this. This is a Colombia map of some of the most important mines. So we get asked a lot of questions on Colombia. Oh, is it like Ecuador? Oh, is it like Venezuela? God forbid. Is it like Peru? I think of those three, I would compare it best to Peru, but I'd roll back the clock maybe 30 or 40 years. Okay, so Colombia does have a lot of mines. You can see that. They are concentrated in the north of the country. There is a combination of open pit and underground mines and some really big ones. South 32 operates Cerro Matoso, which is a top 10 world largest nickel mine, used to be the largest nickel mine a number of years back. Glencore operates Cerrejón Coal, which is the largest open pit nickel mine, coal mine in the world. You'll see our former project Buritica. We drilled off 11 million ounces of gold in all categories before selling that to Zijin. That is now the largest gold producer. Very important, you will note a project named Marmato, which is owned by RS Mining. I'm highlighting this because if you look at the red star, that represents the location of our Guayabalas and San Antonio projects. We are contiguous to Marmato, and that is going to be very relevant on the next slides, and so forth and so forth. So this is an established mining jurisdiction. Why I say it's Peru 40 years ago, it has 1/30th the number of mines, but this is the last frontier in Latin America, or really South America, that is unexplored with infrastructure and population. There are other countries that have no infrastructure that are unexplored, but this has a country with excellent infrastructure, very strong democracy. It's the oldest democracy in South America, and we're excited to be back at the drawing table to do it again this time around with collective mining. Zooming in inside Colombia, we're in a department which is named Caldas. This is a remarkable place to be. If you look at the 4 bullet points on there, the first one, 500 plus year mining history. I mentioned Marmato mine. We're next door to it. That is a mine that's been producing continuously for all of those years. So as a result, every person that is from this department has mining in their blood, one way, shape, or form. Additionally, this department has a very high education level, has excellent infrastructures, things just work here, and it's got wonderful security. And that is a success for mining in Colombia, and we're fortunate in the location that we are in. Let's zoom in now. So you will notice RS Mining's Marmato title, which you can see on that map, which is on the top right-hand side of this slide. And then you will see our 2 projects, Guayabalas and San Antonio. Our flagship project is called Guayabalas, and we are going to only focus on that today. Okay, but there are some sayings in mining that you need to be aware of. And first is, the best place to find a mine is next to a mine. Okay, it is remarkable that RS Mining or its predecessor companies never consolidated this ground. I like to compare what we have done here to an early version of what Barrick did with Newmont in the early 1980s in Nevada. For those that are not aware of that story, Barrick was a junior miner at one point in time and came in and picked up a ground next to a mine of Newmont, which ultimately became the Gold Strike mine, which for many years was the largest gold mine in the Western Hemisphere of the world, producing about 2 million ounces per annum. So very giant. And here we are again. So Marmato is, you can look in the 3rd bullet point, they've got 3.2 million ounces in reserves and a global resource of just shy of 9 million ounces. It's a large project, and we've come in and picked up a larger land package. Importantly, our package is contiguous along strike at Guayabalas from Marmato. The trend of the mineralization goes from the southeast to the northwest and right onto our ground. More importantly, as I'm going to show you on the next slide, is the geology. This is a porphyry district, okay? And I'm going to walk you through that, and I'm going to show you why we have the bulk of that porphyry district sitting on our Guayabalas project. The last thing I mentioned, location. This is an amazing area because there's mining in the area, there's infrastructure already. So labor is here. Hydropower, it's 100% hydro that traverses the property. We have roads that you can drive right through both of our projects. And we've got an excellent government in the area. So if you're going to pick a location to want to be mining, this is about as good as it gets. Now I'm zooming in. Okay, so what I'm showing you here is you can see RS Mining's Marmato project outlined in gray. That's the shade of part of their title. And then you can see that blue jelly bean, which represents part of our title. What you are looking here is what I alluded to on the previous slide, a porphyry cluster district. For those that don't understand the way porphyry systems form, doesn't matter where you are in the world, they are all similar. You get fingers, which are the porphyries that come up from an intrusion or heat source at depth. The first finger that pokes its head out of the ground carries the bulk of the grade. The last finger is generally barren, and then you get a mix in between on fingers depending on how early or late they are, whether there'll be enough grade to be economic or not. Then in these settings, you can get a phase of brecciation, which we'll talk about in a minute. And lastly, but not least, the last event in this environment is always late stage porphyry veins. RS Mining's Marmato project is a late stage porphyry vein system. Our former project at Continental Gold called Veridica was a late stage porphyry vein system. The porphyry vein systems tend to form around the peripheral of a porphyry cluster. So the way we put this together is we went in and did hard grassroots exploration, so mainly ridge and spur soil sampling. And from that, we generated the targets that you see on that page. There are 7 circles, okay? Orange means we have made a discovery on them. White without an X means we haven't drill tested yet, and the white circle with the X means we tested it and it's a failure. Okay, the reason I'm highlighting this for you is Mother Nature is usually very, very complicated for mining areas, and it's very difficult to make a discovery. The odds in mining are typically about 1 in 1,000 that you will make a discovery that becomes a mine, and 1 in 300 to 400 that you will make a viable discovery. So I'm saying that to you because we have drilled 5 of these 7 targets, okay? Of the 5, the one with the X missed, and the other 4 have significant discovery to their name. You will notice that Apollo is in the larger writing. That is our flagship discovery. This is without question a very large system. I'm going to show you that first, but we will at the end quickly look at Olympus, Donut, and Trap as well. The last thing I would like to mention about being in a key location, you will note those mining symbols on the page. There are 10 fully permitted operating mines within 10 kilometers of where we have made our, within 3 kilometers, my bad, of where we have made our discoveries. So if you weren't sure if this was a mining friendly jurisdiction, there it is. 10 small operating mines, one of them large being RS Mining's Marmato project. Let's go to the next slide and let's look at Apollo in some detail. Okay, so this is the Apollo area. I mentioned discovery was made here by soil sampling. And what you're seeing there is the result of the soil sampling. The light blue blobs represent moly or molybdenum in soil, and the orange blobs represent copper in soil. You will note that the blue and orange blobs tend to overlap each other in 2 places, one in the center of the image and a second place in the south of the image. Okay, that's what a coincidental soil anomaly looks like. The discovery that we made, which is the exciting thing at Apollo, is called the main breccia discovery, and it's that darker blue shape that looks sort of like the continent of Africa on a map. This is a gold, silver, copper system. So all 3 metals make up this system. Moly is in soils, however, that will not be economic as part of the system because these are younger age porphyry systems. Okay, before I go into the drilling results and the excitement, it's important to understand what we're looking at here. So the main breccia discovery is why we're so excited about it, and why when you leave here, you'll be, I believe, confident we have a multi-million ounce gold equivalent discovery, is because there are 3 overprinting mineral events or events that have dumped metal into this main breccia discovery. The first and earliest form event is a porphyry itself. So this is a breccia, but what has happened is there was a porphyry here. The porphyry was in effect overtaken by a breccia event. Breccia looks like a jigsaw puzzle with jagged pieces that don't connect very well. So when you put them together and look at them on a table, there's a lot of space in the connected pieces between where they're connected. That means porosity. That is excellent because that allows fluids to get trapped in those porous spaces. So a porphyry event has put all of the copper in the system into that breccia, as well as part of the silver and gold. But then we have 2 events of late stage porphyry veins that have crossed this main breccia system. And when they cross it, those veins lose their form as veins and the fluids dump out into the system. They are responsible for the bulk of the gold in the system, as well as some of the silver and a very little bit of the copper. My experience always says that large scale discoveries always have multiple pulses of fluids being dumped into the system. Here we have at least 3. Let's go on to the next slide and look at it now. So, a lot to look at here. I apologize. We're really breaking this main breccia discovery into 3 sections, north, central, and south. We are reporting here in gold equivalent because gold is in majority of the holes the dominant of the 3 metals, typically about a 60% weighting for gold to 30% silver to 30% copper. It does vary in places, but look at those grades and those intercepts. So this is a bulk tonnage high grade system. Importantly, the system comes to surface in the south. So it's the shallow southern high grade zone is all outcropping at surface, as well as at least half of the central high grade core is outcropping at surface. And then the system plunges gently as it moves to the north. Okay, you can see some very large intercepts if you look closely at the hole numbers in the text boxes where the assays are reported. You can correlate them to the individual assays themselves. If you look at the shallow southern high grade zone, there's remarkable grades all right at surface. You know, for mining, that's going to be important in the future because that should mean we'll have a very quick payback, you know, on whatever the capex will be here as we advance. Let me add one last thing. This is an early stage discovery still. We have only drilled coming in to this 2023 calendar year about 12,500 meters into this main breccia system. So early days, you're looking at the results of all the drilling. And today, in fact, we put out a very exciting press release. If you look carefully, you'll see APC 28 or hole 28. We cut 601.65 meters at 1.40 grams per ton gold equivalent. That intercept bottomed in mineralization at the end of the hole. Let's look at the upside on the next slide. So we're highlighting some of these key slides. The one I just mentioned, the 601.65 meters at 1.40. Key theme, bottomed in mineralization. If you look at hole APC 17 and hole APC 22, APC 17 cut about 550 meters at almost 1.1 grams equivalent. 22 is 426 meters at about a gram and a half equivalent. Those holes also bottomed in mineralization. So very exciting stuff. Today alone, we extended the dimensions of the main breccia system. You'll see that on the map. Where we extended it, the width today grew from 350 meters to 395 meters, and the vertical dimension went from 825 meters to 950 meters. You can multiply those 3 together to get a volume calculation, and you can see we're dealing with a large body. Importantly, this is all open for expansion. So if you do your math and you put even some restrictions all over it, it's not very difficult to see here that we have an emerging multi-million ounce gold equivalent discovery under our belt that will continue to expand. 2023, this is going to be about 2 things. One, for the main breccia system itself. One, let's block out the mineralization that starts from surface. Okay, today in our release, we announced visual results for those 4 darker red holes that you see on the main breccia discovery at the top. We were at visuals for 31, 33, 35, as well as 36. You'll note 36 starts at a different pad 7, than the first 3 mentioned holes, 31, 33, and 35. From pad 6, all 3 of those holes cut visually from surface mineralization down to slightly more than 350 meters in length. We stopped all those holes intentionally while still in mineralization because we want to block out or better define the at surface mineralization in the early parts of this year. So that is what we're doing there. The hole from pad 7 cut more than 100 meters of continuous mineralization from surface as well, and we are continuing to drill from those pads. If you look in the south, we just started drilling this new anomaly. This is a porphyry target where you see the pad 8, you see 32 and 34. We'll talk more about those as those holes start to progress, but potential to make another brand new discovery down there. Fingers crossed that works out for us. Moving on to the other targets. So we are not a one-trick pony. I mentioned how fantastic this project is. So let me keep in mind that in 2022, we drilled a total of 23,000 meters on those 5 targets. The one with the X that doesn't have a name, which is out, plus Donut, Apollo, which we just talked about, Trap, and Olympus. Okay, so let's talk about the other 3 targets. So in no particular order, Donut. That was our first discovery. We put 10 holes into Donut. The holes range from 100 meters to 250 meters thick, typically running on average at somewhere near 1 gram per ton gold equivalent. That's gold and silver only, starting near surface. Long story short, that is a modest scale target. It doesn't offer the large scale type of multi-million ounce target that we're looking at, but it will be a nice addition to a resource inventory in the future. Trap has only 3 reconnaissance holes into it. The third and final hole of that program cut almost 103 meters of 1.5 grams per ton gold equivalent, starting at 100 meters directly below surface. That is a gold, silver, and copper discovery. And then really our second major discovery is Olympus, which flat with the highlight hole being 302 meters at 1.1 grams per ton gold equivalent, starting just below the soil profile at 50 meters. Let's look quickly at Olympus before we go to questions. You can see of the 7 holes that we have announced, you can see a selection of 4 of them there. So this is another bulk tonnage system, that is actually only about a half a kilometer away, 800 meters away from Apollo. So they're all on strike with each other, these systems. And this is remarkable. You will note the dark blue oval area. We do not have any assay results from drilling into there yet, but that is where we have some artisanal mining taking place on our site. And so we've gone in and channel sampled the artisanal mines. You'll note very high grades in those channel sample assay highlights. I would like to make sure you understand those are over narrow width, so these are narrow veins. You will look at the inset and you'll see in a channel sample at a true angle to the strike of the system, we sampled 182 meters at 1.15 grams per ton from an underground mine. And we have 3 drill holes outstanding, which are expected in late February, early March, drilled within that dark blue oval area, which is at least 500 meters away to the southwest or to the southwest of where the initial drilling took place. So big step out. Let's see what we get in those 3 holes, and look forward to reporting those results as well in the relative near term. In summary, this is a year of drilling again. We're a discovery-based, aggressive company, and the focus is really going to be on Apollo. As you note, we have 3 rigs turning. I probably should mention that we do expect the first results from the 2023 program to assay results to be made available sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks maximum. We have excellent turnaround from the laboratories. And as a result, that's it. So I think at this point, we can open it up to questions. I will take the first question. Is there evidence of a potential at surface mineralization from Pad 8? So the answer to that question is, look, you saw we have evidence of mineralization in the soils from Pad 8. So the answer to that is yes. That does not necessarily mean that we will be hitting a porphyry from surface. We don't know. It could be a few hundred meters down, but it's leaked up to surface, which is typical. Let's wait and see what happens with our fingers and toes crossed with the drilling, in that regard. Next question. Do you have a projected all-in sustaining cost for the Guayabalas project? No, we don't. We've only have 23,000 meters of drilling into the project approximately to date. This is very early days. We're a pre-resource stage company, so no, we don't. But look, the high grade is close to surface and it is bulk. So at least from comparable mines around the world, that could mean that we will have a lower grade operating project if and when it becomes a mine, but that will be subject to studies in the future. Next question. These results are great. Can you please comment on the current government's stance on mining? Absolutely. So those that follow Colombia know that it elected a center-left leaning government at the national level for the first time in its history. And this current administration has been clear prior to getting elected on its stance towards mining. it wants to decarbonize, meaning it wants to go green like the rest of the world. So if you have commodities that you are exploring or hope to mine that are supportive of transition to decarbonization, you will have support. If you were in the exploration for coal business or oil and gas business, you will not have support. And that is what they have been sticking with. And that has been the stance. If you look at our press releases from very recently, we had a visit from the vice minister of mines of the country. And there's a video attached to that. It is worth watching because you will see a very strong position towards mining in general in Colombia, and more importantly, what collective mining has been doing effectively on the ground. Next question. Do you have outstanding royalties on the Guayabalas project? No, we do not. The only royalty that will be associated with it is the mandatory Colombian government royalty, which is 3.2%, which is very competitive compared to many other jurisdictions. Next question. What is the ownership makeup of Collective? So Collective Mining is owned 52% by insiders plus management, and the rest is a mix of institutions, only a few of them, and retail. Next question. What is your 2023 drilling plan? Can you expand on it with success from the current activity? Absolutely, we can and will expand on it. Let's see how we go. We have a very lean team right now to go through an expansion, meaning more rigs. We will need to hire more people. That is something we plan to do in the future. But yes, I can see us operating here with many more than 3 rigs, come latter half of this year and definitely into 2024. The game plan is to put out a resource estimate towards the end of 2024. We think that's about the right timeline that will give us enough drilling into the main breccia system to get to a resource. Next question. What are your all-in drilling costs and how do those compare to the rest of the world? Very competitive in Colombia. Our all-in cost, which includes drilling, assaying, and support people, is about $250 per meter. That is US dollars per meter. That is in the lowest quartile of cost in the world. Next question. What kind of recoveries would you expect from this project, considering it is a porphyry system? Well, good question. So look, we have only to date done early stage metallurgical work. What we did was a bottle roll test, really focused on the precious metal component of it. That was the area we thought could have the most concern. And if you look at our press releases from December, you'll note that all 4 tests achieved north of 90% recoveries for gold, with about 50% recoveries for silver, which is typical. So we haven't done any work yet on the copper, but I do not expect there to be recovery issues with the copper because the mineral that our copper is hosted within is called chalcopyrite, which is typically the best mineral for circuits for recovery. Last question, have you any NDA agreements? Not yet, but that is something we are exploring. Let me go to the next page quickly to see if, I think that's it. So if there's any other questions, I believe we have 2 minutes, and if not, that would be it. Okay, I think that's it. So thank you one more question. How about infrastructure? So to answer that, we have great infrastructure. We have roads traversing the property, hydropower traversing the property, and 2 towns near us, one with more than 30,000 people that is educated, ready, and able to work. So great place to be. Obviously, we'd have to do some things for infrastructure ourselves ultimately, but this is a great place to be. One of the reasons we picked the project is because of its location with respect to infrastructure. So with that said, I thank everyone for their time, and please feel free to reach out to the company on your own via email at info@collectivemining.com or our website at www.collectivemining.com. Thank you very much.